Kanoonu Kannada, Unit 4. So the Unit 4 of Kanoonu Kannada contains letters. One letter is asked for long answer and the one letter is asked as a short note. So the important thing in the letters is pattern. You have to write the letter patterns correctly. And the next important thing is identifying details in the question. So the question sometimes contains the details of the letter, like for example, to whom you are writing the letter and who is writing the letter contains in the question itself. So you have to identify that correctly and write in your letter. The matter, you can frame it in your own words. So the pattern is important and identifying the details is important. And the next thing is matter, which you can write in your own words. In this video, I will tell you about all of the letters, their meaning and their purpose, and I will tell you their patterns. So let's start with the first letter. The first letter is Malika ಮತ್ತು ನೌಕರ ನಡುವಿನ ಕರಾರು ಪತ್ರ. So this is an employment letter. It is framed by the employer and it is signed by its employee. The employer who is providing work to its employee, he creates this letter, and the employee will have to sign that letter before entering into work with that employer. So it contains at the top a company name. So you have to draw this box and at the left side you have to write company name. If it is given in the question itself, then you have to write that company name only, or else you can write your own company name. And in the right side it contains a logo. If in the question a logo is not given, then you can draw your own logo. And after below that box at the right side you have to write a date. Then you have to give the heading as Nemkati Patra. Then you have to mention at the left side Priya Gautam, or to whom you are writing letter. If the question contains the name of the person who is getting employed, the employee name, then you have to write his name. Priya, that person's name, employee's name. Then you have to write subject matter. So the subject matter you can refer textbook or you can frame your own words also. It basically contains the terms and conditions of the employment. Like for example, at the starting he will be hired for temporary and he will get temporary salary, and after that he will get a fixed job, and his retirement, how many days he will have to work and what are his holiday per week, that it mentions. So this is the subject matter. And the right side, at the bottom side, you have to write Shubhavagili Chirantan, that is signatures, and then Mukhya Karya Nirva. So this is the first letter pattern. It is an employment letter. The next is Badige Kararu Patra. So as the name indicates, it is for giving rent. The owner of the house writes this letter for its tenant, and it is signed by tenant. So first at the top the heading is Vandaneyavaru, owner. So you will have to write the details of the owner. The detail might contain his name, his age and his father's name. If given in the question, then you will have to write those details only. Then the next is Eradaneyavaru is a tenant. So the second person is the tenant who is taking the house on rent. So his details you have to write. Vandaneyavaru, Eradaneyavaru. Then the subject matter you have to write. That is what the owner has framed rules for the tenant, that you have to write. You can frame it in your own words. Then with schedule. So whenever property is involved, the letter contains a schedule. So what is the schedule? The schedule contains the details of the property, the location of the property and the coordinates of the property. So in a Badige Kararu Patra, the property is involved because a house is there. So that location of the house you will have to write in schedule at the end. After writing subject matter, you will have to write schedule and give home details, like in which area it is, where it is situated, you will have to write that. Then signatures of Vandaneyavaru and Eradaneyavaru, the signature of owner and tenant. And then in this there are Sakshidararu, there are evidences. So two evidence signature is there. Sakshidararu signatures and Idannu Tayarisidavaru, who framed this letter. Sometimes it is an advocate who frames this letter. So Idannu Tayarisidavaru, his name. So this is second letter, Badige Kararu Patra. The third letter is Salada Kararu Patra. So as the name indicates, this letter is giving loan. This letter is framed by the person who is giving loan and is signed by the person who is taking the loan. So in this there is a Saliga who gives loan and then Salagara who takes loan. So at the top we have details of Salagar and bank. So the person who is taking loan, his details and the bank details from which he is taking the loan. You have to write these details. So the Salagar detail may contain his name, his age, his father's name, occupation, etc. and the bank details. After that, subject matter. So the subject matter might include that the person is taking loan on such interest so and he will return on that period, etc. You can frame it on your own. And then we have signatures of evidences, Sakshi Dararu. So this is the pattern, very simple. The next letter is Kraya Patra. So this letter is created while buying plot. So when you are buying plot, this letter is created by the seller and signed by the buyer. So at the top we have buyer details. So the detail contains his name, his age, his father's name, occupation, etc. First we have buyer details. Then we have seller details, the person who is selling the property, his details. And after that we have subject matter. So the rules and terms and conditions of selling the plot and what is its cost, for how much the buyer is willing to buy, etc. it contains. Then schedule Vivara. So it involves property, then it will have schedule. So in schedule we have its coordinates, Purvakke, Pachimakke, Uttarakke. So 3 coordinates from east, west and north. You have to write this coordinates. Then we have signatures of evidences, Sakshigalu. So in on the right side we have signatures of Krayake Kottavaru and Krayake Padadavaru, the one who is selling the plot and then the one who is buying the plot, their signatures. The next letter is Vibhaga Palu Vingadana Patra. So as the name indicates, it is a partition letter. This letter is created while doing partition. In a family, if there is partition going on, then they will have framed this letter and according to this they will partition the property. So at the top we have date. Then we have details of the parties involved in partition. So the successors, their names, first party, second party and third party. So these are the successors who are among whom the party is being partitioned. Then we have joint hakku and reason for partition. You will have to mention that why they are doing the partition. Then a schedule, Vandanyavarige. So the schedule you have to write bottom, at the bottom property details, and for that schedule you are telling who will get that property. So the A schedule, the property mentioned in the A schedule will go to Vandanyavarige and the property mentioned in the B schedule will go to Yadnyavarige. So of course the remaining party will go to the third party. Then you will have to write a subject matter, like this property will go to him and this much property will go to second person and the third party will keep the remaining property. So Vibhaga Patra ke Vadapatta Asti Vivara. So this is the schedule. You will draw the schedule, A schedule. So this is the box you will have to draw in the partition letter. Vandane, for Vandane, A schedule, Sa number. So how much acre this land is, etc. this box contains. So it is a schedule Vivara. You will have to draw 3 boxes. For A schedule for one party, for B schedule for another party and C schedule for a third party. So the number of parties are there, that much schedule you have to create, mentioning their properties. And then Raste Hakku, Niru Hakku. So these are the easement rights which come with the property. Raste Hakku means a right to way and Nir Hakku means a right to water. These are easement rights. You have to mention that these rights will also pass to the owner, new owner. And then we have Sakshidarara signatures, signatures of evidences. Tayarisidawaru, the person who created this letter, his signature at the bottom. The next letter is Adhikara Patra, power of attorney or Mukhtara Name. So what is this letter? This letter is created by a principal while transferring his rights to an agent. So if a person is hiring an agent to look after his property, then that person will create this power of attorney letter to pass the rights to his agent. So at the top we have Dinanka, date. Then we have details of the agent, the person who is becoming the agent, his details, his name, his age, occupation, father's name, etc. Then we have details of the owner, the person who is giving the power of attorney, the principal, his details. Then can't maintain agent on below conditions. So the owner here is saying that for some reasons he cannot maintain the property, so he is hiring an agent for below conditions. So the conditions you have to mention for agent to look after the property. Then Asti Vivara, so it involves property, so of course it will contain a schedule. So Asti Vivara Jilla Taluku Gramada Paptu. So number Vistirna Ekre, so the serial number, and then we have how much acre the land will cover, the property. And easement rights you have to mention, right to way and right to water are added. So this is a power of attorney, the letter which principal writes to his agent. The next is a notisu. So this is a legal notice which an advocate sends to someone on whom he has filed a suit. Legal notice. So on legal notice, on the left side we have a logo of the advocate. Then we have the name of the advocate and his qualification. At the right side we have details of that person, of that advocate, his phone number, his mail, mobile number, his email ID, etc. Then at the right side you will have to write Dinanka, date. And after that the heading of the letter, the purpose of the letter, the subject of the letter you will have to write. So this is an HRK notisu. So Ivarige, to whom you are sending the letter, you have to write in left. Sri Dinkar and his address. So if the details are given in question itself, then you will have to write those details. After that we have details of client, the one who is filing the suit from this advocate, his details. And after that we have subject matter. So the subject matter will mention why the suit has been filed on him and he has to be present in court. That you have to write. And the bottom right side is Sahi of the Vakil, of the advocate. The next letter is Vada Patra. So this is a plaint letter. So it contains at the top the court details first. Lagu Vajjagala Nyayalaya Belagavi Ivara. So the court on which the case is filed, that it is to be mentioned in the top in a Vada Patra or a plaint letter. Nyayalayadalli Lagu Vajja number and the case number you will have to mention in the right bottom side. After that, at the top we have court details and the case number, and below is the details of the plaint and his address. After that the case details like versus Vada versus Prativadi. So the name of the person plaintiff versus the name of the defendant. Vadi Viruddha Prativadi. Then Nyayalayada Feesu, you have to also write the fees that you have paid. Then subject matter, for what you have filed a suit on him, that you have to write. Then Vadya Sahi, the person who is filing the suit, the plaintiff's signature. And at the bottom left side we have true to my extent, that it is true, whatever he has written is true. And then Dinanka, date, and his place of filing the suit. Then Vadya Sahi, Vadya Nyavadya Yaradru Iddare, their signatures. So this is a plaint letter. It contains at the top a court name, then court case number, and then plaint versus defendant, and then court fees, and then subject matter, and below are signatures. The next is a Prativada Patra. So defendant letter. To cross the plaintiff letter, we have defendant letter. So the defendant write this letter. So first is Vaputane. So he will, in this it is a textbook example. In this he is accepting all the allegations made by plaintiff in the plaint letter. So Vaputane, he will accept all the allegations. Then Vapudilla, what he will not accept in the plaint letter, that you have to mention in this, and a reason for that. So then we have subject matter. You have to write a frame for reasons. You have to write why he is not accepting and why did he accept the claims of the plaintiff in the plaint letter. And the signatures are same as Vad letter, plaint letter. The next we have is Praman Patra. So Praman Patra is created when you are changing your name. So if the person is changing his name, then he will have to write the Praman Patra. So details of change of name and accept in front of a notary. So detail of change of name. What is your new? What is the new name you are taking? That you have to mention, and you are accepting this in front of a notary. That you have to mention. Then Sahi, signature. Then Prana Patra Garana Gurutu Nanige Ide. After that you have signatures of notary. So this is a very short letter, Praman Patra. It is created for changing name and it is done in front of notary. The next is Uilu Patra. So Uilu means will. So this letter is for creating will. So the detail of the top we have detail of the person making will. So the person who is making the will, the person who is dying, his name, his age, occupation, father, his father name, etc. Then matter to how is willing to partition his property, how is creating the will. You have to write that this much property will go to him, this much property will go to his son, his daughters, etc. The will you have to write. Then we have signatures of Sakshigalo evidences and the signature of the person who is writing the letter. So these are all the letters. So subject matter you can write on your own. Identifying the details in the letter is very important. And the pattern is really important. If you keep this in mind, then you will score good marks in this. Thanks for watching.